to another edition of the Business Plain and Simple podcast presented by the ReGroup Advisors. I'm your host, Tiffany Stone, and it's our goal with this and all of our podcasts to guide prospective and current business owners on their journey to prosperity. We'll show you what to do and what not to do in this ever-changing environment. I'm very excited to be joined today by Crystal Trevors of Stepscan and the one and the only Mike Kashubsky from the ReGroup Advisors. Welcome to you both. Mike, I told you were going to like that intro this time. The one and only.
I need some walk-up music. That's what I need. I need to be off camera and have some walk-up music for the next one.
There we go. Some walk-up music for you.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
we can do the fanfare that din 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 din.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's perfect.
I love
it. Crystal, it's funny because, this will be the little barbs going back and forth. So that just means I'm going to get a really tough question that I'm not going to have the answer here. So, but no, thanks, Tiffany. Yeah, great to jump on as always.
Always. Well, Mike, let's go to the first question with you. Can you tell us a little bit about ReGroup Advisors and Stepscan and how you guys are working together to create something great?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll let Crystal really explain to you what she's doing with her company, and it's absolutely wonderful. And as we have spoken times on previous podcasts, we like getting involved in investing in med tech, health tech. We're pretty passionate about that. And we look for companies that are focused on eliminating the stress levels for not only a patient, but then also their family. And we had the wonderful introduction to Crystal, and we were talking to her about what she did. And here's the wonderful thing you're going to hear about her when she talks. It was all, we didn't even actually understand what she was doing, other than she was so focused on the patient and their family that it resonated with us right out of the gate. And so we really, said, we'd love to work with you and help you get, a further penetration in the U.S. And as we've spoken, many times, we can bring her through the international landing zone that's in Macomb County and set up a Midwest regional hub. But we've already started talking to people in multiple states. And I'm really excited to work with her. We're honored that she's allowing us to work with her because she has such a wonderful product, I'll call it that. But more importantly, she represents exactly where healthcare needs to go. And when you truly hear helping patients and their families, she lives it, and it came out. And like I said, 15 minutes into our conversation, we finally asked her, hey, so what do you got? And so I laid the groundwork for you, Crystal. So you talk about the company and everything you did, but she's a wonderful person based in Canada. And so, I'll let you guys kind of have the chat, and I'll sit here and listen.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Mike. And Crystal, before we start, that's really cool to hear what Mike said, because obviously anytime that you have to deal with healthcare, there's so many questions, and family is first and foremost. And you always want to make sure that your patients and their families really kind of know what's going on. So can you give us a little deep dive into what exactly is Stepscan and why did you develop this technology?
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, really nice intro. Thank you so much. And so Stepscan, as the name implies, scans people's steps. So it's a medical technology that is analyzing people's mobility and balance. More focused and into my heart is really about fall risk assessments for seniors. I mean, anybody who has a condition that is impacting their mobility can benefit from a mobility assessment, computerized mobility assessment. My heart and soul is really tied into really what is a major public health concern with accidental falls in seniors. And that's where I spend most of my time promoting. That's who I'm speaking to, is long-term care and physiotherapists, rehab specialists that are really passionate about helping seniors expand their health span.
That is awesome. I really enjoy all of that. And I think that, what you're doing right now, and like you said, it's just being able to help so many different people. And so going a little bit further, what types of locations can Stepscan be deployed?
Yeah, so we are in universities, we're in hospitals, and you can find us in prosthetic clinics. So there's a really beautiful fit with helping fit prosthetic limbs on recent amputees and helping them to train to walk again. So that's a really nice use case as well. And really, my whole goal with Stepscan was to move computerized gait assessments and biomechanical assessments out of big city centers, out of big city specialty hospitals, and make it accessible to more people everywhere. I mean, that's really the goal. I want it to be accessible to everybody everywhere, which I know sounds really broad, but that's why we made it so simple, so efficient. Like, we've tried to take this major hours-long process of gathering data about how people walk and just condense it into a really simple 5-minute assessment that gives so much data and really allows the rehab specialist to make decisions that are really to the benefit of the patient or resident, and just to give them some power back, right? Like, give them the actions that they can take and the exercises they can do to increase their mobility, increase their balance, reduce their fall risk, and really just enhance their quality of life overall.
That is awesome, Crystal. And I don't mean to put you on the spot or anything, but I can really hear in your voice how much this means to you. You can kind of see, but it also makes me tear up, because there's not many people that work in the healthcare field and the industry that's really putting forward all of their energy really to help somebody else. I know somebody that had gotten in an accident and his leg had to be amputated above the knee, and so he does walk with a prosthetic, and this is something that can help them, especially because it happened on a motorcycle. He was in a motorcycle accident, and a lot of people, even though those accidents have taken away their mobility, they still want to get back out there and they still want to do the things that they love, riding motorcycles, riding dirt bikes, and a prosthetic that he has given him the ability to do that. He just got actually married a week and a half ago and was still able to walk down the aisle with a prosthetic. So it's really cool to be able to see that you're kind of doing this. And, I just want to switch focus real quick to Mike. Mike, what are your thoughts on the US market and international markets with the landing zone?
Well, so what's really interesting with Crystal's medical device is it's portable. And, we've talked a lot about where a lot of the US market is shifting to an aging in place model, assisted living, their residents, and it's different from 20 years ago. 20 years ago, it was, I age out, I go into a skilled nursing facility and I just never leave. And now people are a lot more active, healthier, but the fall risk, the fall risk in a setting is high, especially as you get older, for a number of reasons. And we started looking through and really talking to settings where they're treating those patients, and also where the impact is severe, right? If you're living out of state, right? If I live in Florida, my parents are in Illinois, and they're there, and hopefully they're both alive. But what happens if you have a single parent out of state and they're living at home? They want to move into any other setting. And it's a fight that every one of us is going to go through. I feel bad for my son having to deal with me when I get to that age, because I'm probably going to cement myself into my basement so he can't pull me out of the house. But the piece is that you're always nervous, because as simple as getting up in the middle of the night and losing your balance and falling when you go to the restroom could break a hip. It shortens life. There's a lot of stress factor. So we not only looked at it in the same settings that Crystal's already in, but we started saying, geez, this is mobile enough. Mobile. Now think about this. It's mobile enough. It's much more advanced than somebody just doing a human interaction, right? You're using a highly sophisticated electronic device to then test a patient and determine if they have a high risk, which if they don't, the family's relieved. If they are, then the family's relieved. Either outcome is going to be fantastic because you now know how to either be preventative or, proactive in getting assistance versus a reactive mode where you get a call at 3 a.m. with your parent laying on the floor, picking up the phone saying, hey, I crawled over to the phone. It took me 20 minutes. Can you call an ambulance? Nobody wants that. And so we see this in a number of different settings. We see this coming in at a time when healthcare in the US is changing, and we see where patients' families and those patients are wanting the convenience and the technology to come to them instead of them trying to get back to a fixed site setting. And so we see this in a number of applications. And once again, it's a good example of something new and getting people to see it and understand it. And I know there's a diabetic piece to it, a diabetic side. I'll let Crystal talk about that because she explains it way better than I do. I always just go with, it does a lot of stuff and which isn't really specific. But that's another component to it, which opens up some other arenas as well.
That's awesome. Well, let's go over to you real quick, Crystal. Then what's a little bit about that to finish off this segment about the diabetic part?
Yeah, thank you. So with Stepscan, it's a pressure-sensitive electronic floor tile system and software. And because it's pressure-sensitive, and there's actually 14,400 sensors per tile, like 5 millimeters apart. And so when somebody walks across our platform in bare feet or sock feet, we get this really beautiful pressure map of what's happening under the foot. And so basically this pressure distribution measurement. And there is a high degree of correlation with peak plantar pressures, so peak pressures under the foot that are associated with the risk of diabetic foot ulcers. So when you have somebody that has diabetes and maybe some neuropathy, meaning they don't have nerve damage and they don't feel like we would, like any sores that are forming under our feet, our equipment can identify those areas at risk for diabetic foot ulcers. So, I mean, there's these two major public health concerns. I mean, 1 in 4 seniors over the age of 65 will have a fall in the next 12 months. And I know that there's some stats that once a diabetic foot ulcer forms, there's a 48% chance of amputation, that the wound won't heal and will result in the requirement of an amputation. The downstream healthcare cost of both of these problems is extreme. And so we're just thrilled that we have a technology that can identify the risk for these two critical areas and just really, again, bring that power back to the patient and let them kind of put their healthcare into their own hands. They can make the choice to do the things that they need to do to stay healthy. I love it.
Wonderful. No, that's great. And like you said, and what Mike was saying, there's many times where when the older you get, you do not necessarily live as close as you'd like to your parents. Sometimes they live out of state, and being able to have this technology and being able to have a little bit more communication, not only with just your family members, but with the devices that they're using. So you can kind of get that, we see now that people are able to see a doctor via Zoom, exactly what we're doing. How great would it be to be able to get all this great information as it's happening? And like you said, you put it beautifully. There's many words that I would never be able to say again. And you just put it together so great to really help us and make us understand that this is something that we need, not only for our older generation, but for anybody that is going through stuff. And I didn't know the stats of 1 in 4 will fall very, very soon. And, that puts a lot into perspective because our parents, our grandparents spent so much time helping us and raising us that it should be, we could help them when the time comes as well.
Yes. And I see this really great compliance that comes with somebody knowing their mobility score. if you know that your mother's mobility score is 60, like, what are we going to do to make it 65? What are we going to do to make it 70? And really be able to encourage them. And because our mantra here is mobility is a litmus test for healthy aging. And so the more we can keep people mobile and moving and strengthening, we can keep them safe from falls.
Awesome. No, I love that. You just touched my heart right there. That is wonderful. And like I said earlier, you can definitely see on your face, you can hear it in your voice that this means a lot to you. So thank you so much for doing this. Of course, it is going to be able to provide so many great things for people and keep everybody mobile the older that they get. And like you said, if you know a certain number and you want to get to higher, you already know where you're at. So that's wonderful. So thank you so much for joining us today and providing some great information to both Crystal and Mike. It is awesome to be able to see where technology is taking us and, of course, making us feel a little bit more at ease. The older that we get, we'll be able to have all of this great information. So thank you both for stopping by today. And that will do it for another edition of the Business Plain and Simple podcast presented by the ReGroup Advisors. Thank you so much for listening. And make sure you guys follow our podcast wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss a future episode. You'll be notified as soon as they are released. And if you want to catch up on past episodes, don't worry. You can do that. All you have to do is go to our podcast feed and you'll see everything right there. And if you're interested in business advising services offered by the ReGroup Advisors, you can contact them at 888-248-7077.